Welcome to episode 84 of the Valley Sports Talk podcast. If you guys are wondering, yes, we just did finish recording the weekly picks that you guys should already have watched. If you haven't, stop this video, go watch it, and then come back and watch this video. But in this episode, we're going to be talking about, drumroll, the NHL season, because it starts in,
Hey, it's
they
back.
were recording, it starts in about 4 days. I believe it's
Starts on Friday. Or no, starts on
Tuesday,
Tuesday.
4 days.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, my
Can't
Penguins
wait.
start the season off against Connor Bedard. Penguins gonna put Connor Bedard in his place. Yeah, I got no doubts about that. We're not doing NHL weekly picks because that would be way too many games to cover. Um, but we will, however, talk about our maybe not power rankings, but I think we're gonna rank each division and where we see each team finishing. Am I correct?
Yeah, I mean, speaking of Connor Bedard, do you think that Marc-Andre Fleury is a Penguin for life? Did you see that?
Yeah, I tripped him and then he went by and tapped him on the whenever he
Yeah, he's already helping the
started getting
Penguins.
in their head. He's already getting in
Yeah,
his head.
showing him that he's still a little kid in a
Yep.
man's league.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the NHL's right around the corner. Can't wait. Can't wait to watch the Leafs lose in the first round again. But I mean, it's all about the 82 game buildup. That's what we're looking for, and that's what we're going to be predicting today. So we'll see how that goes. See how
Yeah.
far off we are by the
See
end
how
of the
bad we
season.
are. Since both our favorite teams are in the East, let's start with the West. Uh,
Cool.
if that's okay with you.
That's a-okay with me.
All right, let's go to the Pacific.
Yes, aye, Captain.
Let's go from eight, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, eight to one.
Okay, my eight. The San Jose Sharks. I
Mm.
don't think they got a whole lot there. I don't think we got to go too in depth. I think they made it obvious this offseason by trading Carlson to Noah's Pittsburgh Penguins that they are clearly trying to tank this year. Um, I mean, I think we're both gonna have the Anaheim Ducks right around there too, but I think the Anaheim Ducks got so many prospects that they're going to be a little bit more competitive, especially since over the past like 5 days they've signed all their RFAs.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the Ducks will be a little bit better than the Sharks. So I'll have the Sharks at last.
Yeah, I'm gonna go the exact same order as you. I'm gonna go Sharks at 8, Ducks at 7. But I think that this could be a pretty sizable gap from 8 to 7. I think the Ducks are gonna be a lot more competitive than
Me
um
too.
people think they're gonna be. And I think that they'll maybe for the start of the season they might hover around a 500 record, and then eventually once teams start to sort of get their legs under them. Oh my God, I couldn't talk there. They'll eventually start to fall back, but I'm expecting a big year from Mace McTavish. I think he's going to take a big jump. Jamie Drysdale has a lot to prove because he holded out for a contract and only got paid about 2.8 mil, which I don't think is really what he was expecting. Zegras has a lot to pay. I think Zegras is one of the most overrated players in the league, by the way. I don't think he's a bad player. I just don't think he's as good of a player as the hype he gets. He just does a crazy, ugly ass move every other week. So that but yeah, I have it going Sharks, who I think will be possibly the worst team in the league this year, and then Ducks.
Fair enough. For my next spot, it might be a little bold, and it does pain me to say this. I'm gonna put the Seattle Kraken at six.
I have two.
Oh, really? Okay. I think last year was a little bit of a fluke. I do think they got a good team, but I mean, I think you might say this forward. I do think the Vancouver Canucks are going to be decent this year. Um, so yeah, the only other team that can fit that is the Kraken. I think this division is going to be very stacked. Um, so yeah, it's kind of a shame, but I just see the Seattle Kraken taking a little bit of a downfall.
Yeah, I'm basically only putting the crack in there because I don't think they got any better. I think they basically brought in the same team, except um they brought over Penguins legend Brian Dumoulin, who is absolutely atrocious. I don't know why the heck they even wanted him. But I just think the teams above them got better. And I think the Kraken sort of stayed at the same level they are. You know, we going to see a Shane Wright that we thought was the number 1 overall pick? Then he ended up going to 4. Like, what Shane Wright are we going to see? Um, but yeah, I don't. They didn't really do much in free agency, which has kind of like not hurt by, but I kind of expected them to do a bit more based off the fact that they made the playoffs. They pulled off the upset against the Avalanche, and then they didn't really do much in free agency. So I do have the Kraken falling to 6, same as you.
Yeah, do you want to say your number 5 team as I've been stealing all the thunder?
Yeah, my number 5 is the Calgary Flames. Not that I don't think they're a good team. I just have a feeling that there's some teams that have gotten a bit better than them. I expect bounce back years from Huberdeau. I know he had a down year last year. They did trade away a couple of their players this year, including Tyler Toffoli, for Sharon Govich. I don't really know if Sharon Govich is going to fill that role. You need no, they have Nazem Kadri, right? I'm not tripping.
They got Kadri, yep.
Yeah, they have Nazem Kadri. Not that I don't think this team is good. I just think that other teams will have better than the season. And then, like you said, this is going to be a competitive division for the first time in a while.
Yeah, at my 5, it's where we got our first difference. I got the Vancouver Canucks. I do think they're going to be a lot better than last year. I'm just skeptical to put them higher because they got a really good roster, but I feel like we've said this for 2 to 3 years straight now, where they have a good roster and they underperform every year. So is this going to be the year they perform? If yes, I could definitely see them being a wild card team. If no, they're going to be around this area, maybe switch them with the Kraken or something like that. So I'm just going to play it safe with the Vancouver Canucks and put them in the middle of where I think they could possibly finish.
Very
So
good. Very, very, yeah. Yeah, I have the Canucks what is that, 4?
yeah,
I have the Canucks at 4. Will they sneak into a playoff spot? They could. I could see them getting that second wild card spot. Um, but I think they'll be right around sort of that area. Same with the Flames. I think the Flames and Canucks you could put either team above, and I wouldn't be upset with it. But yeah, I think we've been saying it for a while. They have good players. They just haven't been able to put it together. And I think this year they might slightly put it together a bit more than usual.
see, which is where I think the other way around. I'm going to have the Flames at 4, and I think it's going to be a playoff spot. I think there's going to be one wild card from each division. I am going to give the Flames a wild card spot here. They do have a good team still, very good team. I think Markstrom's going to bounce back. You said they didn't add anything, which I totally agree with. I just think the players they had last year are going to perform more to expectation than underperform, which in turn makes them a better team. I think a big bounce back here from Markstrom. So yeah, I do think this is a playoff team. Here's where it's going to get a little dicey. I'm going to go. Oh, I'm gonna go Vegas at 3.
I am too. I'm putting the
Okay.
Stanley Cup chance at
Okay.
3.
Okay. I think I am a firm believer in the Stanley Cup winning hangover. It does firmly take these teams a little bit to get going, and just with such a strong division, if you take a month off, you're not going to be coming first. So I think although Vegas is definitely in the running for another cup, I'm gonna have them at 3.
Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna go Vegas at 3. I think it's sort of like you said, it's a hangover. Um, I don't really think Aiden Hill is a starting goalie. I know he played amazing in the playoffs, but that's what players do. They play good in the playoffs. They have the adrenaline. They have the motive. I don't think he's a caliber NHL starting goalie. Right now they have Logan Thompson, who I think is a better goalie than Aiden Hill, but it looks like he's going to be the backup. Well, how many games is Mark Stone gonna play? Always a good question. Is Jack Eichel gonna have a good year? There's a lot of questions to be asked with Vegas, not bad questions, it's just like curious questions. Is this gonna happen? So not that they're not a good team and not that it's not like we don't have them making the playoffs. Like they're in the playoffs.
Yep,
Um
for sure.
yeah, Vegas at
They're a
3.
playoff built team, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it twice in recent memory, in my recent memory, anyways, with Bennington being coming up into the playoffs, so not out of nowhere, but kind of out of nowhere. And I mean, he's still a starting goalie, but he hasn't turned into that elite guy people have wanted. And same, I mean, my only other memory is the Hamburglar.
Yeah. But he just completely
Even
fell
in the
off.
league anymore. So it normally doesn't work out for goalies who have big playoff performances like that, but I hope Aiden Hill sticks around. Um, do you want to say, or do you want to go number 2?
Yeah, I have the Kings at 2, which is kind of shocking. I know you might think that since I'm not a big Oilers guy that I would have them at 2, but
I have the Kings at 2 as well.
yeah, I kind of figured that. I think the Kings are good. They trade for PL like Dubois, gonna fill in their second role. That means Philip Deneau is their third center, which I think Philip Deneau, the third center on any team, is amazing. He's such a shutdown center. He did shut down Connor McDavid for a bit of the playoffs, in that first round series. The one thing that scares me is their goalie. Right now, they're relying on Cam Talbot to be healthy, and we saw last year he can't stay healthy for a full season. Is Phoenix Copley the answer? I don't think so. I'm excited to see Brent Clark play. I'm excited to see how this forward group plays. And yeah, I think they're going to be a playoff team, but the big question mark is goaltending for me for them.
Yeah, same with me. This team's flat out stacked and they're young. If they had a starting goalie, I would definitely probably put them one.
I
I could,
100% would put them one.
yeah.
If they
Um,
re-signed Corpusalo, I would have had them one, even though I don't think Corpusalo is amazing. I just think he's a better goalie than Cam Talbot. He's proven he can be healthy.
yeah, I definitely agree. Which means we both got Edmonton at one. I don't think it's possible for Jack Campbell to have as bad of a season as he
I
did
don't think he's
last
going
year.
to start. I think Stuart Skinner's the starter.
I think Stuart Skinner's the starter too, but and whenever they put Jack Campbell in, he was borderline unusable. And I
Yeah.
don't think he's going to be a starting goalie anymore, but I think you'll feel a little bit more safe playing him as a backup this year than what you saw last year. The goaltending was pretty atrocious last year, and even Stuart Skinner, he had some games where it didn't look great. But he's young, so I think Stuart Skinner's going to bounce to have a really good year this year, and I think Jack Campbell will be a fine backup. And this team did finally do a little bit of adding around the edges. I think this team's a little bit more well balanced. Um, they finally signed Evan Bouchard, right?
Yeah. They gave him a bridge
Yeah.
deal though.
Yeah, I mean that's fine. You gotta do what you gotta do. But I think this team, they've been pretty similar for a couple years now, and I think that's gonna work in their favor. I'm expecting a big year from Edmonton.
Yeah, for sure. Moving on to the um
The Central.
Central. My eight is going to be it's gonna be Arizona. I think that they are gonna be. I don't know. The Arizona's such a weird team. I think they signed a bunch of guys like say Jason Zucker, for example, to 1 year deals. I think those guys are going to be trade candidates. I don't know where how Arizona is planning this rebuild. They feel like they've been in a rebuild for 20 years. Obviously they're still playing in a 5,000 people arena. It's very confusing what the heck Arizona's doing. In the end, I think they're going to be eight.
I don't know who to put eight at this division. This division is so tough. Because there's so many teams that are all around each other. This might be very bold. Oh, there we go. There's my alarm. I'm going to be very bold,
Alarm.
and I'm gonna predict something. I'm going to predict a slow start from this team, and I'm going to predict a goalie trade. I'm going to say the Winnipeg Jets finish eighth in this division.
Wow.
Very bold.
Wow.
I know, I know. I think if they don't start hot, things are going to change. I think they're going to blow it up.
I think that's
I'm
bolder
surprised
than
they
bold.
didn't do
That
it
might
this
be like that
offseason.
might be like burning hot.
I know. Why do you have them making the playoffs?
We'll get
Do you
there.
have
We'll get there.
okay, fair enough. I just think there's a possibility that this team could blow it up. And if they blow it up, I want to be the first one to call it out. At
Hey,
my seven, we're gonna skip right over that. We're gonna get all the hate out of the way. I will go Arizona at eight. I do like the
eight,
additions
maybe
they
seven.
at seven. Sorry, I will go Arizona at seven. I don't want to put them eight again because they've been eight for so long now. I mean, I
No,
know that.
Chicago was eight last
Yeah,
year.
I know, but they've been the bottom for so long. I know I still have them at the bottom, but I do actually like their team this year. I think they took steps in the right direction for once, and we'll see how good they do. But
Yeah,
yeah, I'll put
my
it.
seven is going to be the Blackhawks. I know have Bedard. They have a couple players like Taylor Hall, Corey Perry, Nick Foligno. But Nick Foligno and Corey Perry are both on 1 year deals. I both think they're going to get traded at the trade deadline because they're veteran players that want to be on a cup team or that are going to want to be on a cup team, and they are good cup assets for teams, depth wise. I don't even know who their starting goalie is. Is it Peter Mrazek?
Yeah, and their backup is somebody I've never heard of before.
Who is it?
Arvid Soderblom.
He's like a 6'8" goalie. Yeah, I know who he is. He played a couple games last year for them. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think the Blackhawks, obviously they took Bedard. He's supposed to be the next, Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid-esque player. Um, will he be that player? We're gonna find out, but I don't think that it happens in year one. Obviously, for um the Blackhawks rebuild. I think in years to come, I think they're on the right track, but I don't think that they're going to be competitive yet this year.
Yeah, I'll have them one spot higher. I'll have them at, I guess, oh no,
So
I have them at six. You have them at seven.
seven.
Okay, I'll put them at six. I think, yeah, it's going to be a tough year. I think they're offense. Well, I don't think offense will be an issue for this team. I think it's defense and goaltending where you run into issues. You got Sam Jones, obviously, but other than that,
Sam
um,
Jones, Seth Jones.
Seth Jones, sorry. I'm all over the place. You got Peter Mrazek, who we all know has not played a full season in his career. So Soderblom's going to be your starter through like a month into the season, and I don't know how that's going to go. So I'll put them a little bit better than Arizona, but I don't think it'll be another good season for Chicago. Um, which means we're at five now, and I don't
Yep.
know which team out of these two I want to go. I'm gonna go Nashville. I think another change could happen here. They've been rumoring a goalie change for a while now. A possible blow up could happen there too. They're just it's hard to count Nashville out because every year you think it's not going to go well, it goes well for them. They always find a way to be competitive. So I'm going to keep them somewhere around that playoff hunt, but not in.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Nashville too. Was that your five?
Yep.
So this would be my six.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have Nashville at my six. Um, I wouldn't be shocked if they trade UC Saros. They have a Skarov. He looked good. He was good in the AHL last year. He did get a bit of NHL action, which didn't go as planned, but that's a small sample size. Their big signing was Ryan O'Reilly, and I don't think Ryan O'Reilly is really the type of player that, if you're big signing, you're going to be looking to compete next year. I think that it's sort of not a rebuild, but a retool in Nashville. I think that they're going to take 1 year off, and then maybe the year after they become competitive. Whether or not they trade Saros or not, they're going to get a big return for Saros if they do trade him because he is a top five goalie in the league, in my opinion, when healthy. But yeah, I think the Predators are going to sort of take a retool year, and finish six. My five, I am going to go with the Minnesota Wild at my five. Um, it's just I think that the buyouts are really screwing them over. They can't make this team any better, due to all the dead cap. They've just been all they've been doing is re-signing players, which is what they got to do to stay competitive. They're still a competitive team. Um, they just can't make this team any better. So it kind of hurts them in a bad way. And I just think they're sort of like one of those mid teams. So I have them at my five.
I agree that I'm gonna have them at four, just squeaking into the playoffs. I do think they are the definition of mid, and I think that is the reason of buyouts. This team has such a good potential to be better, so much better. But with the loss of cap space there, there's just not a whole lot they can do, unfortunately. Um, we've seen this exact team go to the playoffs 2 years in a row. So they know how to get there, even with the roster restrictions they've been given. So I don't think that'll change. I think again they'll squeak in, probably lose in the first round, and then move on to the next season. So they're at my four.
Very fair. My four is going to be the team you had at eight, the Jets. I think they're going to sneak into the playoffs in a wild card spot. I don't think they're going to trade Hellebuck, even though they probably should, because I don't think he's going to resign. But I think if they're competitive, obviously they're not going to want to trade him. Um, I like the pieces they got from Pierre Dubois trade. I really like
So,
I forget their names, but they're young, they're competitive. Give me a second.
you want me to search up the trade?
No, I should be able to get it. But anyways, um, I still think that Mark Scheifele is going to be a Mark Scheifele type player. He's a good player. Um, they have a solid decor, and with these trades, they'll Gabe Velarde and who's the other one? And I follow. I really like I follow. And they got another one. I think it was Rasmus Kupari, who's a bit probably a year out from the NHL, but I think they stay competitive with this trade, even though they traded probably the better player in Pierre Dubois. They definitely still stayed competitive, getting these players back. And if they start competitive, they won't trade Hellebuck. So I have them sneaking as a wild card team.
I will give you, if they stick together, I could definitely see this being a possibility. I'm just banking on the fact that they have a tough start and blow it up. Um, which leaves us down to three teams. At my three, I'm gonna go St. Louis. I just don't think St. Louis stacks up to the other two teams in this division that I have left. I do think they got a great core. and it's fairly young, and they got decent goaltending. Um, but I mean, can it compete with the top two teams in this division? I don't think so. I
Probably
think the
not.
top two teams in this division. I mean, I'm saying this early. I'm assuming Noah has the same two teams at two. I think these two teams are so much better than every other team in the division. And you could rank the rest of the division kind of any which way you want, but I think these two should definitely be at your top.
I definitely agree. I have the Blues at 3. I think they're a better team than most people are giving them credit for. I think Jordan Kyrie and Robert Thomas are sort of going to break out into superstars this year. We've kind of seen it sort of start to happen in the last few years, but I think this is finally the year that um that Jordan Kyrie and Robert Thomas both break out, and they have some pieces around that. Braden Shen was just named the captain. They still have Torrey Krug, Colin Parayko. What Jordan Binnington are we going to see is the big question. Are we going to see, like you mentioned, playoff Binnington, or are we going to see Binnington that gets in a fight with a player every other game, Binnington? But yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think you can have any other one or two. It's just basically going to be the way that me and you rank 1 and 2.
Well, tell me who your two is.
My 2 is Colorado.
My two is Colorado.
Yeah, I just think the Stars are a better team. I think that the Stars last year had them winning the Stanley Cup, which didn't go well. I think they got better this year. Adding players like Matt Duchene for 3 mil, I don't think you can really lose that deal. He still was great last year. Adding a player like Craig Smith, he's a good depth piece. Jordy Ben, I know he's not amazing, but he's a depth defense. And then they still have people like Mason, like Miro Heiskanen, and I think Jake Ottinger is the top 10 goalie, top 7 goalie in the league.
And they
Um,
got a really good backup.
Pardon?
And they got a very good backup, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
Um, and but not saying that the Avalanche aren't a good team. I just think that the Stars are a better team.
Yeah, I think the difference is, and it's hard to compare this because you never really know going into a season, but over the last couple of years, injuries have really killed Colorado. I know obviously their captain, Landeskog is missing the start of the season, I believe. And into what, like Christmas or something like that?
Yeah,
Or
something like that.
and then I
They do have
know
Ryan Johansson, who I don't think he's as good as he used to be, but I think he can be a substitute until Landeskog gets back.
yeah, I think so too. But I mean, I just think the Stars might have one of the best all-around built rosters in the NHL.
Totally agree.
Um, and I mean, it's gonna be very hard to compete with. Colorado did have a really good back end of the season last year to take the number one spot, but it was basically um Dallas and Minnesota fighting for it the whole year until Colorado came back. But that's our West.
That is the West. Getting into the East, do you want to do Atlantic or Metro? Because our teams are in different divisions here.
You go wherever you want.
Let's do the Atlantic, just because I think that the Metro might be easier to rank. So let's get the harder one out of the way.
Fair enough.
Um,
At my 8, I got Montreal. I
yeah,
think they're very clearly rebuilding. Where honestly you can make a case for every single other team in this division fighting for a playoff spot as their mindset going into the season, where I think for Montreal it's clearly a rebuild. So just for that fact alone, I'm gonna have Montreal at the bottom.
yeah. I also Montreal at the bottom. I mean, I don't have to say much about it. This is where it gets very bold for me. At my 7, I have the Boston Bruins. I think they're going from
Very bold.
I think they are going from the best record in NHL history to not making the playoffs. I just think the losses of Patrice Bergeron, David Krejci, and they traded away Taylor Hall to make cap room to sign somebody, and they didn't even sign anybody. Not I also think that Linus Ullmark does not even come close to having the year he did last year. I think they should have sort of got their value and traded him this year, and went with Swayman as their number one goalie. But yeah, I guess you could call it very bold. You could call it almost as bold as you putting the Jets at 8. But I have the Bruins at 7
Right, you gotta have some bold thing because something bold happens every year, right? So you
every
just
time.
gotta try and get it right. At my 7, I'm gonna go with the Buffalo Sabres again. I'm sorry, Sabres
Wow.
fans. Uh, I know,
Our
gonna have
Sabres
another tough
fans.
one. I really like their roster. The only thing that kills me is I find it hard to trust young goalies in the NHL, and they're banking on two very young goalies, one that hasn't even played in the NHL yet, to carry this team. They got Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen and they got
Yeah.
Devin Levi. Ukko Luukkonen, and they're really hoping, well, they're banking on one of these two becoming an NHL starter this year. And I don't know if it's going to happen this year. I think they're both very talented. I think they might just need a year or two, and I think they'll be very good, but this year not so much.
That's a fair point. I just think that their offense is too good to not carry them. At my six, I am going to have the Detroit Red Wings.
Me too.
Yeah, they're like Brand said, this team, this you could make a case for it from 7-1 being a playoff team. Very competitive.
100%.
It's going to be really confusing, but I just don't think Detroit sort of is better than the other teams, if that makes sense. Their goaltending is question mark. I think Husso is a decent goalie, but I don't think he's a playoff, a Stanley Cup champion caliber goalie or even a playoff. I think he's a really good backup or a 1A, 1B sort of situation, but they don't really have a 1B. James Reimer is
James
pretty good.
Reimer.
Yeah, whatever.
Alex
And their
Kane.
other defense scare me. They have Ben Sherratt and Justin Hollow. I think
Yep.
two brutal defensemen, and then they signed a washed up Gostisbehere. They do have Sider. I do like Sider. They do have Simon Edmondson, who's like 6'6", and he's a really good skater, which is kind of scary to be honest with you, how good of a skater he is for the size he is. But like you said, I just think these teams are better than them, ahead of them.
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing I can add to the Red Wings is DeBrincat. I am very interested to see how he works with Tatar. I mean, not Tatar. Oh my God, that's brutal. Dylan Larkin. Being that Larkin is more of a pass first guy, and he's never really had an elite goal scorer on his line, and now he's got DeBrincat, who's, in my opinion, one of the better goal scorers in this league. Um, so I am very interested to look at that. We're now at five.
We are.
This is where it gets very tough. God damn. I don't know who to go with.
I know you're gonna go here.
Wow.
I have a feeling I know you're gonna go here.
Do you?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Boston.
Okay, now who else thought you were going with?
You thought I was gonna say Tampa or
Yeah.
something? I don't see Tampa not being a playoff team. I am gonna go Boston. I think they are gonna dip out a lot. I mean, I know that some of the pieces they lost weren't putting up the points they were putting up anymore, but Patrice Bergeron still was. I mean, you lost your top two centers, and they were both wicked at face-off percentage. Um,
They were both top five in the league, I believe.
that's pretty wicked in my opinion. Um, so I mean that's irreplaceable. You're just gonna have the puck a lot less. And even just losing Patrice Bergeron, that's a lot of leadership that's out of that room. Do I think that Allmark can have that season 2 years in a row? No. He's pretty old, and not pretty old, but he's a vet in this league, and
I
to
didn't know
have that,
28 was old.
it's not old, but it's
You're
a
making
vet
me
in this.
feel old as a 20-year-old.
He's a vet in this league, and like I mean, your breakout season shouldn't happen at 22. I think we kind of know what goaltender Allmark is, and I don't think he's a bad goaltender. I don't think he's going to be the Vezina winning goaltender that he was. So
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
thinking a drop for Boston.
That's fair. My five. I'm going to have the Florida Panthers. I'm going very bold in this division. As I still have the Sabres and Senators in my ranking. I think
Yeah.
the Panthers are sort of going to drop out. I think last year was a fluke run. I don't think they had a very good team. And I think they sort of didn't embrace that in the offseason, but they sort of figured, hey, we made the Stanley Cup final. We have a decent roster, which I don't think is really the case. I think they brought in Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who I know we talked about in the summer. I think he can have a good year. I think there was almost a bit too much pressure on him um in Vancouver being the number one D, but I think on this team he's the number 3D. So I think there's a lot less pressure on him. But I have a feeling about these four other teams above them that I think that the Panthers are going to miss the playoffs.
Yeah, I will have this team making the playoffs, although I think it's just going to be the same thing that happened last year. I'm going to have Florida at four. Um, I do think
Senators
they
top two.
will. I think they will squeak in, and then once they squeak in, they can give any team trouble. I think this team is a definition of a playoff built team. I don't think this team is a very good regular season team. Obviously, it's good enough to get in. Um, but I mean, they got lucky to get in last year. They can thank Chicago for that. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna have them just squeak into the playoffs at four.
Okay, yeah. My four is going to be the Buffalo Sabres. I think they get a wild card spot. I don't think really that it's going to depend on their goalie. I think it's going to depend on their offense and defense. I think Devin Levi is going to be a fine starting goalie for
I
them.
hope so.
And I just think that it's finally time to see a competitive team in Buffalo. And I would not also be shocked. I've heard rumors that they could be eyeing up Patty Kane.
That'd be huge.
So yeah.
That would be huge.
And
Am
then
I still gonna go Tampa? Oh,
my three is
oh,
Tampa.
okay, so is mine.
So
I
we
don't think
both
there's much to
we
say
have an
about Tampa.
Ontario 1 and 2.
That's pretty cool. That's
Wow.
pretty cool.
I don't think Senators fans would have guessed this.
No, probably not. But maybe they would have. They got a good team. Tampa's just the Vasi injury is really hard. I know even if he's just out like a month or two, that's going to be a big loss. But Tampa's just the definition of a team that's been there before. They know
Knows
that
what to
seeding
do.
really doesn't matter. They just get in and see what happens when they get in. So I'm not too
Three.
worried about that.
Yeah. Yeah. I also have them at 3. Like you said, even though Vasi's missing the first 2 weeks, I think they just know how to work their schedule. And how to be competitive. But with that being said, we have an Ontario 1 and 2, which is going to be amazing to see. My two, I'm going to have Ottawa.
Me
I
too.
think they had a really good offseason. I think Corpusal is a steady goaltender. I don't think he is an amazing goaltender. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's been a backup. He was a backup for Columbus for a reason. He was a starter in LA when they traded for him. He did look good in the playoffs. They're banking on him. You got Shabbat, you got Chikrin, you got Sanderson, you got Zub. You got 4 great defense there, and then the lineup is just stacked from top to bottom. They finally have their getting their prospects in. What are they going to do with Shane Pinto? I think they got to sign him. He's too good of a third center not to sign him, and he's still young. Players like Ridley Gregg will finally get in there, and then you got your top 6 guns who I think will carry them.
Yeah, like you said, this roster top to bottom is absolutely stacked. And I actually am pretty high on Corpusalo. Like Noah said, he had a pretty good playoffs. Um, I mean, yes, his numbers as a starter haven't been the greatest in his career, but I mean, with this offense, Ottawa's going to be putting up a lot of goals, and with this defense that they have as well, I don't think he's going to be facing a ton of shots like he was in LA. He was getting peppered in LA. Um, so I think his job will be a little bit easier and he'll have more room to make error. So with that being said, we both have Toronto 1. I think Toronto finally built a team that is finally capable of making a run.
I actually agree. I think if
It's
Samsonov is above average, I think this team could go places, which we know they might have the Leafs curse, but they finally broke the curse last year. So
they did.
maybe now the second round's their curse.
And like everyone, this is such a everyone like I mean, and I totally agreed. It was such a regular season built team, where year after year after year we were saying you need a guy like Tyler Bertuzzi. I'm just using him because that's the guy they actually got. But to see them go out and get a guy like Tyler Bertuzzi, Max Domi, even a fourth liner like Ryan Reeves, it's what they've been looking for so long, and the fact that they've actually done it, I think there's a lot of optimism in Leafs land.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. But yeah, we'll get on to the Metro as we have 6 minutes left.
Get a
Um,
boogie.
I don't think me and you are gonna have any different 6 or 7 and 8s. I think it's gonna go Flyers, Blue Jackets. Not that I don't think the Blue Jackets are a bad team. I just think that they're maybe 1 year out from their competitive window. They did make a couple trades. And then the Flyers, yeah, I don't know what the Flyers are doing. They're a dumpster fire.
Yeah, it's bad. I'll let you take that because uh that Philly Pittsburgh rivalry is some so to see them at the bottom is probably pretty nice.
One.
Um, at my 6, unfortunately, I gotta go Washington. It killed me to do
Yeah,
it.
I'm going
Um,
Washington too, so
they're old. We saw it last year. They just don't have it anymore. One injury kills their whole season. Um, yeah, it's Washington at 6.
yeah, I agree. 5, I have the Islanders.
Me too.
Um, I
Me
think
too.
they're just the definition of a mid team and definition of a team that maybe now without Trotz they won't play so defensive, but they've just been such a defensive team that they don't score very many goals. So if they're giving up 2 goals a game, they're probably losing that game. Um, I know you
Yeah.
do have a top 2 goalie in Sorokin. I think the two New York guys have the 1 and 2 best goalies in the league. Um, but I just don't think that, like I said, maybe Horvat is the savior of all saviors, but it's just weird. I don't know. The Islanders are such a weird team.
Yeah, maybe we just agree this whole division. The way I thought about it is if they don't have Sorokin, where are they in this division? And I think it's
Probably
below
7.
Washington. Um, it could definitely be below Columbus, so I'm gonna give them 5 just because of Sorokin, but without him, this roster isn't very good, to be honest. At 4, squeaking into the playoffs, I got the Rangers. That might make you
Wow,
very happy. That might make you very happy.
does
Honestly,
make
the Rangers have just been so disappointing for so long. I'm done betting on them. Not I don't actually bet on them, but I'm done betting on them to be a good team when they just aren't. They loaded up last year and it was so disappointing. Um,
I think last year was one of those things where you just had too much talent and you just
yeah,
couldn't.
and I mean they lost a lot of it to free agency this year. I love the Blake Wheeler signing, but other than that, yeah, I'm just done trusting the Rangers to do something.
Yeah, I'll agree with you. I have the Rangers at 4. I think there's a chance that we go 8 for 8 in our places here. Um, yeah, it's just they lost Tarasenko and Kane, and they're hoping to refill them with Kako and Lafreniere, who I don't think is a bad bet considering they went 1 and 2 in their respective drafts. But just how long do we have to we have to wait for them to get their chance? They've been in the year for 3 and 4 years. They're going into their fourth and fifth years. When is it time to give up and move on from them? I don't think it's going to be this year, and I think that's going to be the reason that they sort of dip and barely make the playoffs, as you mentioned.
Yeah, I'm gonna have Pittsburgh at 3. I could definitely see them being 4. I think the Rangers and Pittsburgh will be very close this year. Um, I mean, Pittsburgh, they did a lot in the offseason. I think it was good enough to get them back in that playoffs. Can they go farther than that? Time will tell. I'm not the biggest believer in that, but I do think they built a playoff ready roster. And I think they're going for Sid Malkin Tang's last run here.
Yeah, I mean, as a Pittsburgh fan, I was a fan of their offseason, bringing in a former last year's Norris Trophy winner. Eric Carlson is obviously going to be a move that sort of puts your team towards winning. He is 33, so I mean, Pittsburgh is, I believe, the second oldest team in the league behind Washington. Go figure. But yeah, I totally agree. I think that they're going to get back into the playoffs. The big question marks is, did Dubas make the bottom 6 any better than it was last year? Because that was the main reason why Pittsburgh was so bad last year. They had no depth scoring. And can we see a healthy Tristan Jarry? If both those answers are checked off, I think this Penguins team could be an underdog, and I could see them being very scary team to face in the playoffs if both those two factors are clicking. Because you're getting out of the top 6 guys. I don't think Malkin and Crosby are going to have too much of a decline. I just think they're too good of players to sort of not have a decline. They're going to sort of adapt around um, their age, and I think that Pittsburgh could be a good team if everything clicks.
Yep, they'll be good till the day they retire. I see this division kind of like the Central. That might hurt your feelings. I see the top 2 being just miles better than
No,
the
no,
rest,
I
personally.
agree. I totally agree.
Um, where we might disagree, I have the Devils at 2.
I don't. Okay, we are going to
Okay,
disagree.
there we go. We got to disagree. I really like what the Devils did. I just think they're kind of like the Leafs from previous years. I think they're super. I mean, they do got pretty good defensemen, but I think they're very offensive heavy. I think they got decent goaltending, but I think keeping the puck out of the net might be an issue, which definitely was an issue for the Leafs a couple years ago. I think they are the definition of the Leafs from a couple years ago.
Very good point. Yeah, the one thing that scares me with the Devils is their goaltending. I think they're still betting on Vitek Vanacek and Akir Schmid, who I don't think is any more than a playoff flash in the pan. But yeah, they're at 2, and then or they're at 1, sorry, and then I have the Hurricanes at 2, who you have at 1. Yeah, just two basically all around good built teams.
Yeah, I have the Hurricanes at 1 just because where I see a weak spot in goaltending for the Devils, I don't see a weak spot at all in this lineup for the Hurricanes. So
Very
that's
good
that's
point.
all I'm basing it off of.
But yeah, with that, we got through all 4 divisions. We hope you guys enjoyed, and we will hopefully see you back next week for more um, weekly episodes.
See ya.